Yo, what's going on, traders? So we're going to start the weekly outlook video today looking at the S&P 500 and where we closed the week at last week following NFP, right? So you can see just on the front end of it, we have a good old-fashioned trend line break. What about that, right? So not that trend lines are the end-all, be-all, and I don't think they should be, but this is pretty significant reversal here for the S&P. Now, if we go down the line, take a look at some of the other indices as well. You know, here's NASDAQ, very similar formation here. So when we go down and we look at this, the question is this going to be at the start? I mean, US 30, huge turnaround here. I mean, like, because we were trending up very strong. Shout out to Bobby and the accelerator for a great trade, great call. Good that you got out. Here's that position you took on Thursday. We were talking about on the accelerator call, our live trading session, and you snagged a 1 to 3. Your direction and bias was still correct, but you would have gotten taken out at entry or maybe even a stop loss there. So great risk management. But you can see this is pretty significant, right? So, I mean, this is very bearish where we ended the week on Friday. So the question is, and I shot a video on the dollar and on gold yesterday, are we going to start to see some risk off? You would think so. Now that brings an interesting question though, is especially with the way the dollar has been, does that mean, you know, traditionally risk off would be dollar strength? Is that trend going to continue right now, kind of with the changing market conditions, or is that going to favor something else? Maybe yen, possibly yen strength. This is traditionally a risk off asset. And if you look at CAD yen here, it's obviously looking pretty bearish, right? So now let's take a look at Swiss yen. So hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. So if we have this incoming risk off coming in, now that begs the question, okay, where can we take advantage of this? AJ, man, this is pretty bearish formation here. This would have been a great rejection off this 200 SMA. So now we're moving lower, right? So some of the big things that I'm going to be looking for this week are potential pullbacks on some of these, these yen pairs. This potential risk off, which is also going to mean Aussie weakness, CAD weakness, NZD weakness, and then we can see how that pans out with say Euro yen and pound yen, right? So GJ, everybody's favorite. I love GJ when you're on the right side of it. So now, and that also, you can see how pound Aussie and Euro Aussie finished the week super strong. And I think that's more because of Aussie and risk on weakness rather than Euro strength. Because, you know, if you look at Euro USD, it's not like it's crushing, and pound dollar is in fact pretty bearish, right? So I don't think that's because of the pound or euro being incredibly strong, although they are kind of on the leaderboard here in terms of leading the pack for how things ended up last week. But I think it's more due to NZD USD, right? This is a good example of risk on weakness rather than and risk off strength. So, you know, and what I mean by that, if you're like, dude, what is this guy talking about? Typically, a risk on currency is going to be Aussie, New Zealand, and CAD, whereas risk off is going to be dollar, yen, sometimes the Swiss. And what we mean by that is, what is the risk assessment of the overall market, right? So now if we look at, you know, the S&P 500 here, and we're moving higher, you know, this is where people are willing to take on some more risk. This is a risk on environment because everything's pumping, you know, things are moving higher. People are more willing to invest and put into, you know, something like stocks and S&P and indices. And Now, when things turn around and become a little uncertain and fear starts to creep into the market, like, we have here, this is pretty big move over a 2-day span, right? So when this 3 days, when this fear starts to creep into the market, that's going to create a risk off environment. And then people are more than likely wanting to pull their money out of the market and put it into a safer asset like the dollar. Traditionally, where the dollar was the safest one because it was the the benchmark and where everything how everything's invested. Now that is shifting for sure, but traditionally that's why that is. So this is why at the end of the week we saw risk on strength, meaning the commodity currencies, Aussie, New Zealand, CAD, weakness. That's where we saw those weaken, and potentially the dollar gaining strength, which, this gets back to the gold video that I shot yesterday. So that is a brief overview and a crash course on how these things work and how you can really approach the market from a risk on, risk off perspective, which is, something that I've had a lot of success doing, is just asking myself, hey, is this a risk on environment or risk off? And if you can determine that, then automatically you're going to start to be able to see which currencies are more likely to be strong and which ones are more likely to show weakness. So, and picking up the clues, the facts, doing some fact finding, and how you can really get behind the things that are starting to show strength, like the yen, which will be great. I mean, really hope that pans out because let's face it, everybody loves it when the yen is strong, right? Nothing's better than saying a big short on CAD yen that goes like 200 pips or GJ, right? So this is where I'm going to be looking at early in the week to find some signs and then take advantage of these moves. Now we've had a couple, false hopes, I guess you would say, these breakdowns. But, the thing is if we look at GJ here and this move lower, we never broke this high. We never came back to test this high here and break above it, right? So the fact is that was the high, right? So CAD yen, I said this as a signal out to the group. We had this big sell-off, bit of a failing rally here, right? We've become range bound, but we never retested this high. We never re-challenged it. So that could be a really good signal that, hey, this is happening, and this yen strength is going to be the favorite of the risk-off basket of currencies over the dollar. But, maybe we'll see the dollar strength, So Euro USD finished the week at 1.1. That's pretty significant. So, there's a lot of signs here for incoming dollar strength. If you want to see my analysis on that, check out yesterday's video in my Telegram. It's going to be uploaded to YouTube. And let's have an awesome week, everyone. Really pumped to get going with some of the things that we kicked off last week. So it's going to be a massive week. If you want to take part in the passing, to get some help with having your challenge passed, and we have a couple seats left for that, where it's more of a done for you service. So click the link above in the Telegram or shoot me a message if you're interested in having me pass your challenge for you. And let's crush it this week. Peace.